Hello, everyone. Good morning. Buenos días. First of all, I would like to start by thanking Luis and Jose Manuel for inviting us to participate in this new READMAGINE conference and to be part of this community so committed to innovation, books, and reading. It's a pleasure for us to be here and to have the chance to talk about the exciting world of education. And above all, for me also to be joined by Karla and John. Thank you and welcome. I would like to make a short introductions about Karla and John. Karla comes from Mexico. She holds a PhD in cultural studies, a master's degree in social anthropology, and is a communication specialist. She also directs the Design of Tomorrow specialty at CENTRO, where she also co-edits the magazine Economía Creativa and leads the UNESCO Chair Design Methods for Democratic Access to the Imagination of the Future. She is author of 3 books and is currently working on her 4th book. Thank you, Karla, for being with me and with all of us. And John comes from the Netherlands. He's the former CEO of Sanoma Learning and is currently the chairman of ILT Education, board member of Infinitas Learning, and an advisor and investor in various education and edtech companies across the continent. John has an extensive experience in the market for learning solutions across Europe and a lot of expertise as well in the digital transformation. Thank you, John, and welcome. So let's talk about the exciting world of education. This morning we were listening to the first group talking about the age of anxiety. We were talking that also we feel a lot of anxiety when we talk about education. Yes, and I think it's something that this morning was also part of the conversation because at the end, the world is changing every day. It's evolving very, very fast, driven by technological advancement, globalization, social transformations, and also it happens in the educational sectors where the all learning methods no longer have the same impact as they did some years ago, so it requires a new scenario. Also, society today demands a more creative, critical, entrepreneurial, technological individuals with also social points to be able to adapt quickly to the new life environment. So in order to do that, education plays a very important role, but we are facing a lot of issues, and at the same time we have to address challenges for the future. Some of the issues that we are facing, I think even in our case, Karla and John have different experiences in different continents, different stages, but also there are common aspects. And for all of us, if we are part of the educational sector or just families with our concerns in education, we have seen in the past years, for example, how the pandemic the impact that had on the learning process for students or in the mental situation, but also technology. Technology is a friend, is a foe. Technology has a lot of possibilities and opportunities, but also is crucial to ensure that the technology serves the learning goals and not the other way around. There is an important debate today about digital use of devices everywhere. PISA scores, the performance of students, the decline, it's one of the most concerns everywhere. The new critical skills for the new world, also how we can foster creativity, innovation, how we manage with diversity, inclusion. So this is the kind of challenges that we are facing every day, but now here I would like to ask Karla and John for you what are the main challenges that we are facing in education nowadays? Karla, please.
Oh, easy question. Speaking about the anxiety age, I feel really anxious about your question, dear Marta. Let me share with you a few concerns that I have detected in the arena where I usually work. I mean, graduate education, continuing education, and also consultancy in company. What I see is a lack of creativity, a lack of curiosity, and of course, a lack of attention that we already, it was referred during the morning. I mean, the attention as a scarce commodity, right? So let me explain this. What I have in mind about creativity is the notion of fault tolerance. What I mean is the capacity to detect gaps and to explore different solutions. And I think there's a lack of creativity not only in the school, but also in company. And I feel there's a critical lack of curiosity as well. I mean, epistemic curiosity, the desire to get new knowledge and to build mental databases. So when you have the three scarcest commodities, these three scarcest commodities, lack of curiosity, lack of attention, and lack of curiosity, attention, and lack of creativity, you have an imagination crisis. Because these three skills are deep related to innovation and deep related to the capacity to solve problems. So I don't think this is only happening in my country. I think this is a global crisis. I don't know if you think in the same way.
I fully agree with you, for sure.
So it's not easy at all. These are wicked problems, I mean.
Yes, they are. And for you, John, what are the challenges that we are facing?
Yeah, so I think you gave a very good introduction of the big ones there. And I think there are three really big challenges that we face today looking at K-12 education from a global lens. So the first one is we have a massive upcoming teacher shortage. There are about 77 million teachers in the world today. It's about 1% of the global population. And UNESCO estimates that we need to find 44 million new teachers by 2030. And why do we need to find 44 million teachers? 60% is really down to attrition, especially in the north and the west, where teachers are old, they're going with their pension, and they're also really unhappy with the profession, and they're leaving the profession en masse. So about 60% is because of attrition, and about 40% is due to expansion because of demographics in the east and in the south in particular. And teachers play such a huge role in the learning of a child. I think a gap of 44 million teachers is going to have a big impact on education. So one is the upcoming teacher shortage. It's going to have a big impact on learning. The second big challenge that I think we face is really around declining learner outcomes. So we've all seen what happened with the PISA scores. It predates COVID, so there was a sharp drop in literacy and in numeracy in the COVID times. But actually, it dates back to 2010. There has been a decline since 2010 in both literacy and in numeracy. And why is this? I mean, I think of my home country, the Netherlands, where it's a rich country. We put these kids through 12 years of compulsory education at a cost of 100,000 euros per student. And at the end of it, 1 in 3 children in the Netherlands is functionally illiterate when they leave school. How can it be? So that is going to have a massive impact on the life chances of those children and the health and the prosperity of future society. So what to do about declining learner outcomes, I think, is the second big problem. And the third big problem is about the digital transformation. So there is huge promise with digital in terms of personalization of learning and engagement, access to education, cost, all of these great things that we all love about digital. And at the same time, we're seeing that actually screens in classrooms are leading to lower learning outcomes, They're causing significant mental health problems, particularly for younger girls, and they're increasing bullying. So I was the CEO of Sanoma Learning. Sanoma is very big in Northern Europe, especially the Scandinavian region. This was a front runner, very much pushing the digital transformation in the earlier years. And now we're actually seeing a backlash against digital. So we're seeing countries like Sweden, rather than mandating that you have to have digital learning resources, they're mandating against digital learning resources and promoting print. In the Netherlands, smartphones are now banned in schools because of the negative impact they have on learning. So that's the third challenge, is like massive promise with digital, but also a lot of problems, and maybe a conservative backlash against it. How to make the digital transformation work is the third one, in my view.
Yeah, well, many very, very important challenges and not with an easy solution, but both of you have mentioned things that are related to the conversation this morning, because here in this conference that all of us want to promote reading. We can't do it without fostering curiosity in children. Reading will develop also their creativity, and it's very linked, but also the role of teachers, because at the end they are the backbone for the education. And all of us who had, or at least I had, a very good teacher that made me feel so comfortable reading a lot of books. So it's the role of teachers are also very, very important. In education, and I'm part of this conference, but in many, many aspects, all of us are talking about innovation. Innovation means many things, but in some cases people talk about innovation just related with technology. In education can be related to technology, but also with pedagogy, methodology. It's related also with the way that we relate to each other, the role of schools, publishers. What does innovation mean for you in education?
Okay. First, I'd like to recall an idea from your last intervention, Marta, because I think as teachers, maybe we should understand that there are so many ways to read. Watching a movie is a way to read. Listening a song is a way to read. Reading a comic is another way to read. So maybe we should understand or to challenge the classical idea of reading. And about innovation, well, I like to recall the classical notion that comes from the Oslo Manual, and I like it very much because it helps me to understand that innovating is not necessarily related to introducing new technologies, but improving the system, managing those resources that you already have. For example, in Mexico, we have a scarcity of resources, speaking about the learning experiences. We don't have enough schools, or maybe we have schools but not teachers, or maybe we have teachers but without proper salaries, or maybe we have schools and teachers but not students because of the school dropout due to poverty, or maybe we have schools, teachers and students but not clean water, but not ceilings, but not toilets. So in that context, it's quite difficult to think in innovating, thinking in introducing new technologies. Maybe in those contexts, the point is to ask ourselves how to improve the learning experience, managing those resources, even are just a few, but managing those resources we already have. That's what I think, because otherwise it's going to be almost impossible to think in innovation in that context.
Yeah.
John, what do you think about the
I think it
innovation?
exemplifies, for example, the big differences across different countries. So the challenges that you face in Mexico are going to be very different than the challenges that are in Helsinki. So
Absolutely.
You see huge variation of challenges across different countries. And I think really we can't think about a one-size-fits-all innovation solution to the problems, because the problems are so local and they're so different. We have to look really locally. What is the problem here and how can we solve that?
Yeah, but nowadays innovation is a word that is being used by everyone, all of us, and even it's sometimes it's just to make things in a different way. It's not just technology, but also technology helps. We were talking about technology, and technology is not just now is artificial intelligence, but there are many other technologies that can be used in order to help education, and we have to realize that many students in K-12, they are all of them are native users of internet and technology. So now to forbid the use of technology or digital is something that I don't know if it's the best or it's not the best solution, but what other technologies can help to education?
Oh, I love that question. I think the most powerful technology is language. So before thinking in introducing maybe the latest AI generative platform, I asked to myself, how can we improve the learning experience with language? Because we have, even though when we are thinking about learning to use ChatGPT, for example, all the point of taking advantage of that specific technology is how to make a good prompt. And that's all about language, how to make good questions. So in my experience, it doesn't matter if we are speaking about Helsinki context or Mexico City context. All the point is to learn how to use the language to improve the learning experience, how to have a good feed-up, a good feedback, a good feed-forward. It's all about language. Maybe it sounds too hippie or too radical, but I think that makes, even though there are huge gaps between different cultural contexts, it's all the same. It's all about how to use the language in a better way.
So I agree with you, and I think as educational publishers, I think the first part of the digital transformation, we were thinking very much about how do we take that printed word into a digital word. I do think we have to think about where are kids today and what are kids doing. So I think we underestimate the power of video in classrooms. I think we underinvest in video. I think gamification is something that's very engaging for students. And there are a lot of things around, especially early years kids, where we can deploy some of the tools of gamification. And AI is obviously going to be one of the huge enablers with AI tutors, hopefully, of raising learning outcomes and improving engagement in the future. But how we looked at this at Sanoma, how do we look at innovation? It wasn't just about technology at all. There I agree with Karla. So the way that we looked at innovation in education was about the core jobs to be done by teachers and by learners. And honestly speaking, those core jobs to be done, they haven't changed a lot since Aristotle's time. They've been around for 2,000 years, and probably the core jobs will stay around for a long time. So we'd worked out that there are something like 15 tasks that take place in every single lesson or every semester throughout the year by a teacher. And very often, the role of the student is the mirror image of what the teacher is doing. So 15 core jobs to do. And our lens of innovation was, for each of these 15 jobs, how can we do that better to get a better learning outcome, or a more highly engaged student, or save time for the teacher? And those three things, higher outcomes, higher engagement, saving time, we called learning impact. So basically, how do we innovate the 15 core jobs to get better learning impact out of it? That's how we looked at it. And that definitely wasn't just about technology. It's about pedagogy. It's about human-human interactions and creativity. It's about content. It is about technology. It's about processes. It's about design. It's about data. It's about lots of things. And sometimes we get too fixed on technology. I think it's much broader than just technology.
Yeah, good point.
I agree with you. And speaking about gamification, I was thinking that it's not only about gamification, but games. traditional games like table games, serious games. Because usually we think that games are only for children.
Yeah.
But as adults, we need to experience that as well. So games, and also we were discussing before the panel started, the importance, for example, of sound design. I lead a class where I lead a graduate program, and we have this laboratory with soundscapes, future soundscapes. So even though our students are not, don't have any experience with sound design, they need to learn how to run properly, and how to build and to create a story and to adapt that story to a script, and then to deliver a soundscape that tells a story about the future. And is quite challenging, but at the same time is engaging. So nowadays that we are all over with this mess and with this hype about artificial intelligence, maybe remembering the basics is quite powerful and quite useful. Language games again.
I really love what you're saying there, and it's also very interesting then to think about it. The Finnish education system for many years was considered to be one of the best in the world. Yeah. They actually program 15 minutes of fun every hour to go and have to play and to have fun and to do games and to be with each other outside. Because actually having fun is great for learning, it's great for social processes, but it also gives you a chance to recover and to process the things that you learned in the lesson before. So I think this whole thing about having fun and being creative and playing games is really positive to learning.
I love listening to you because I think it's crucial to have this core basics and for the learning system, the education, because so focused on just on the technology, it won't be the right scenario for the future. But we were talking about the challenges that we are facing. What kind of actions do you think that we could start with, or what are your proposals to address and try to find solutions for these challenges?
So I'm going to look at these three problems that I put forward before. So the first one is the teacher shortage. So we've got this upcoming 44 million gap in the number of teachers. Well, it's more than the whole population of Spain needs to become a teacher by 2030 to solve the problem. Now, clearly, we as educational publishers of the industry, we can't go out and hire 44 million teachers. That's not going to work. But I think we do help today, and there are things that we can do to help as well. So look at the time of a teacher. There have been a lot of studies about this, and it's rather similar across the globe. On average, 50% of the time of a teacher is spent teaching with students. And that time with the students in the classroom or one-on-one, that's where the magic happens. That's where the real impact and the value comes from. 50% of the time of the teacher is spent teaching. 50% of the time of the teacher is spent doing non-teaching tasks, administration, checking homework, preparing lessons. This is lower value add. The teachers love to do this bit. The time with the kids they love to do, that's why they became a teacher. They don't like doing the administration and those other things. It's a demotivator for them. So I would go back to this framework of jobs to be done and how to innovate. I think we have to look at how can we save time for teachers for all of the tasks that they're doing. How can we save time, and how can we make that easier for them? Because they don't like doing this administration and checking the homework in the weekends and in the evenings. Yeah. It doesn't help. So how can we make the life of a teacher easier? That needs to be a design principle in our learning resources. I think the second thing is about declining learner outcomes. Here I very much agree with Karla that engagement and creativity is really an issue. So we have to, in my view, we have to work out how to personalize learning much more. And that's partly about technology, but it's to a large extent about giving the professional teacher space, new pedagogies, new processes. I do think human tutors and AI tutors will play an important role in the personalization of the future. So we need to bring that technology into the classroom. So I think there's a lot we can do in terms of declining learner outcomes, but engagement is the key to fixing that. And about the digital transformation, I think we've all invested a huge amount of money in the digital transformation. And actually, a lot of the outcomes are a bit mixed. And some of the outcomes are quite negative. And in my view, what we tend to do, we tend to overdevelop functionality in our learning solutions. So everybody's got these fantastic ideas, and we try and put them all into our learning solutions, and they're over-programmed with functionality, but they are under-designed in terms of usability. They're not very usable. Let's think about a teacher in a classroom with 30 children or 40 children or 20, however many children. Teacher doesn't want to have a really complicated learning solution. It has to work, and it has to be engaging for the student. And it's not just the core product, it's the things around the product as well, like the onboarding, the login, the data that operates with other systems. The user experience is not good enough. So I would say if we want to get a more impactful digital, we shouldn't do more functionality, we should do more design, and we should make it much more usable and a much better user experience. And a final thing is this thing around evidence. It sounds a bit dry, but I do think that in schools now we're going to go through a conservative backlash across a lot of countries. There's this kind of slogan about screen time is bad time, and I do think that smartphones and social media are quite damaging, but core learning resources are quite positive. So I think we really need to evidence the positive impact of our learning solutions so that we can show the value that's coming. And maybe move smartphones and social media out of schools and make sure that the learning solutions are really usable and are used. Sorry, it's a bit of a long answer, but...
No, but the challenge is really important and broad, and there are many things that we have to address in order to, in many things, to help teachers to do their job. And it's also the role of publishers, how we can support them, because it's really key for the education and development. And Karla, what actions do you think that we could start with?
Well, my actions are related to the beginnings rather to the edgiest technologies. I asked to myself as a teacher, how can we make the learning experience more meaningful using language as a technology? So I have some references that maybe could be useful in that pathway, because I agree with John. We should have fun, but what I think is maybe not only fun. Learning experience is supposed to be emotional, but there are so many emotions. So having fear, feeling anxious, having fun during a classroom, it's okay. We should experiment, speaking about learning experience, user experience, during a learning process, we should experiment many different emotions, right? So we can use language to work in that pathway. So I have some references that I find really useful. If we want to learn how to make good questions, because as I said a moment ago, technology, when I think in technology, I think in language. So I suggest checking Make Just One Change. It's a wonderful book from Dan Rothstein and Lou Santana, and I find it really insightful, not only to improve the learning experience in graduate in graduate school, in graduate education, but in continuing education and also facilitation, consultancy experiences, right? And I suggest as well, if you want to improve the experience about storytelling, please check The Storytelling Animal from Jonathan Gottschall. It's an amazing book that is really helpful to improve the storytelling during a classroom or even a pitch, a business pitch. About curiosity, if you are curious about the lack of curiosity, I suggest to check Curious, the desire to know and why your future depends on it, pretty suggestive title, from Ian Leslie, and he explains in a very precise way the difference between the diversive curiosity and this other kind of curiosity that helps you to build mental databases. And because I think that a way to work with language we should start to making good notes. I have a huge concern about the student that don't take notes, don't make notes anymore. And I see this in the conferences as well. Everybody is like making pictures, but all of us know that nobody's going to use that screenshots again. You're not going to, you know that you're not going to check the screenshots anymore. And I see my students like having screenshots of almost everything and not making any single note. So I think that's quite critical because the way you make notes is related deep inside with the way your brain works, right?
It's also really interesting that it's not just typing. Actually, the processing by handwriting the note leads to a much better understanding.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I totally agree in the... During the morning, someone in the panel referred to the way you make notes when you are reading in your book. So that's quite important. So if you have any curiosity about how to improve your making notes process, I suggest to check the Zettelkasten technique that it became really popular during the last century thanks to the German philosopher, I missed the name, sorry. I'm going to remember in a moment. But I suggest to check the book How to Make Smart Notes from Sonke Arens. And this is a quite important technique, a quite powerful technique to build a second brain, because that's the way it's supposed to be. If you know how to, if you learn how to make smart notes, that's supposed to work as an archive, a lifelong archive that you can recall and to use again and again and that you enrich.
You've got some fantastic resources there, Karla. Do you have a website where we can find them back afterwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to put not all the information, but the references are on my blog.
Yeah, it will be useful because it will be difficult to, to get them.
Of course. And if you have any curiosity about what's happening with our brains, thanks to internet, I suggest to check this book from Nicholas Carr. The book is called Shallows, and it's all deep, a quite clear explanation about what is happening with our attention, thanks to that we are permanently online. So basically, Nicholas Carr suggests that we are losing our capacity to think in a deep and thick way. So that's why he calls this phenomena as shallowing. Yes. So basically, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think it has been a very useful information if you can share with all of us. And just going to the last point, I think that education requires a collective effort from educators, governments, publishers, and society as a whole. Education is the most important asset for a society. And if you would have to make a prediction for the future to have a brighter future of education, or at least what would be your prediction for the future? One message each of you, please.
Oh my, that's not easy at all. First, I already remember the name of the philosopher. Okay. It's Niklas Luhmann. He used to be an ambassador of Zettelkasten technique. And my best guess, my best guess for the future, well, maybe it's a desire, not a forecast. I think, well, at least in my country, we need to be resilient and to find a way to make things better, speaking about the educational experience, using the resources we already have. It doesn't matter if we have only a few, because we have a really critical, we have this massive crisis speaking about education, so we need to be more ingenious, I think, and to use all the creativity that we have to find out how to make things better, because it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy at all.
And John?
It's not really a prediction, it's more of a wish. I would wish for more listening and more understanding when we try to work out what to do, and less talking and less polarization in one-liners. So more nuance in really what works and what are we going to do.
Okay, I think it's time, so we are in time. Karla?
Are we going to share, I think, a couple of slides with our contact information or
yeah,
something?
it's here, but I think everyone can.
yes.
So thank you very much for your messages, and I think it has been very useful. And we are all of us hoping a brighter future of education. Thank you very much.